На ваш колосальний досвід у міжнародному кримінальному правосудді, на сьогоднішній день Україні варто йти шляхом паралельним ратифікації Римського статуту і надання можливості Міжнародному кримінальному суду повних, широких можливостей розглядати питання, в тому числі починаючи з питання агресії, адже Римський статут дає можливість при тому, якщо ми ратифікуємо і сам статут, і зміни до нього, дає можливість розглядати цей злочин. Чи все-таки пріоритетним на сьогоднішній день для України, ви так тонко торкнулися цього питання у своїй доповіді, чи все-таки для України сьогодні є пріоритетним створення окремого спеціального трибуналу для притягнення до відповідальності керівництва Російської Федерації за збройну агресію, а відтак і інших осіб за тих, які скоїли в нашій державі воєнні злочини, злочини проти людяності, злочини пов'язані з геноцидом. По суті, ці всі злочини є похідними від факту збройної агресії, яка вчинена стосовно нашої держави. То як ви вважаєте сьогодні найбільш доцільно Україні рухатись?
It's really good questions. One, I think it's important to make a distinction between the crime of aggression and international humanitarian law, the war crimes that are occurring. So, yes, the crime of the aggressive act has now led to crimes that are being committed on ground. That's clear. But the accountability, or how you deal with the crime of aggression versus war crimes occurring now, they're very different. They're very different requirements. They're very different legal requirements. So you always have to make you have to make a distinction between the crime of aggression with violations of international humanitarian law that occurs during the conflict. So that's point one. Point two, I've always supported Ukraine's ratification of the Rome Statute. I think it should. But of course, the fact that it has accepted the ICC's jurisdiction means that the court has jurisdiction and will continue to investigate crimes that are now being committed in Ukraine, as they can in the past. Since it was 2014 that Ukraine accepted the jurisdiction. So that will continue. And I think that's very important. And I have no doubt that indictments will come from the International Criminal Court. But not for the crime of aggression. Even if Ukraine were to ratify, it doesn't matter, because the crime of aggression in the Rome Statute is separate from genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, because it requires a state party to accept the jurisdiction of that crime. And Russia is not a state party of the Rome Statute. So therefore, the ICC will not have, does not and will not have any jurisdiction over the crime of aggression against Russia. You have to look elsewhere, as you mentioned, and as I tried to set forth some possibilities for the crime of aggression. But I just want to say one point. I recognize that much attention is being placed on the crime of aggression, and I support any mechanism that will meet international standards in order to pursue Mr. Putin and others. But I also emphasize that I want Mr. Putin held responsible also for the crimes that are being committed now in Ukraine. And I believe that that's a very powerful statement by the international community. And that can come through the International Criminal Court through what I mentioned about command responsibility. And so pursuing justice against Mr. Putin, either for the crime of aggression or for war crimes under the concept of command responsibility, I support. I think you're going to see an indictment against Mr. Putin for the crimes being committed here in Ukraine under command responsibility. I think you'll see that before you see any indictment for the crime of aggression. And the reason is, as we've talked about, undertaking a mechanism for the crime of aggression is complicated, and it has legal hurdles. But the ICC can pursue Mr. Putin under its statute, and I think it should.